And right now I want to introduce Rand Beers, last but not least. 30 years in government service. Started out as a combat Marine, company commander in Vietnam. Worked for the Bush administration, resigned in protest, and joined the Kerry Edwards campaign in an effort to end the war. Mr. Beers.
I wasn't successful the last time. Regime change at home didn't work. I really do feel a deep and tragic sense of déjà vu in the sense of having come home from Vietnam to a divided country, deeply troubled by the war in Vietnam, and deeply unclear of how to proceed. It was the reason that I went into government beyond my service in the military in hopes of being able to, in some way, create a foreign policy and a national security policy that didn't find us in situations like Vietnam. And I find myself deeply saddened today to be back in almost the same place in terms of the debate on policy. I want to make 4 points. First, and others have said it, the objective of the surge, the objective of our overall policy in Iraq is to allow Iraqis to take responsibility for their own country in the safest and most secure environment possible. But our efforts to create that environment, including the effort currently underway with respect to the surge, are clearly, in my view, not yielding that objective. There is no functioning government in Iraq. The interest groups in Iraq cannot find their way toward the political reconciliation that's necessary in order to create that kind of a unified government. And as John said, we have a multi-sided civil war going on, of which al-Qaeda is but one participant in that violence. And so I cannot see how this particular surge and this particular involvement on the part of the United States is going to yield the results of the objectives that have been set out by the President. Secondly, the President often says that this is the central front in the war on terrorism. I fundamentally disagree with that conclusion. And my last job, for those of you who don't know, was Special Assistant to the President, this President, for combating terrorism. And it was clear to me then, and has become even more clear to me now, that al-Qaeda was not in Iraq, is only there now because we are there, and is there in a fundamental strategic choice to fight us there so that we can't fight them where they are, which is in Pakistan. Think for a minute. If you were in Pakistan, you weren't all that strong. Why wouldn't you want to have the United States diverted to another conflict that you didn't even have to fight by yourself, that other people willingly joined in pinning down the United States in a struggle that sapped our people, our resources, our attention, so that we couldn't concentrate on al-Qaeda and dealing with a real threat to the United States that exists and is centered in Pakistan. The London bombings were run out of Pakistan. The effort to blow up airplanes crossing the Atlantic was centered in Pakistan. Al-Qaeda in Iraq would be extremely unlikely to get to the United States. The people who will come to the United States who are Al-Qaeda will come with passports from Western Europe without being required to have a visa. If they are coming from the Middle East, our visa system, to the extent that it works, and it does work reasonably well, is not going to allow those people to come into the country. Where are they going to go? They're going to go to North Africa. They're going to go to other places around the Middle East, but they're not coming to the United States. Al-Qaeda in Pakistan is what we ought to be worrying about. And the larger struggle against Al-Qaeda and the Al-Qaeda movement is what is most threatening to the United States. And so I find myself feeling that while we are bogged down in Iraq, we are unable, in fact, to deal effectively with who is, in fact, our real enemy. Congressman Davis put his finger on the problem, though, because it's all well and good to say, I'm opposed to the war. It's all well and good to say that it's a tragic mistake. The issue is how to responsibly redeploy from Iraq. And I think that is really where we all have to try to bring our effort. It's a situation of withdrawing from Iraq because we can't be more committed to Iraq than Iraqis. But it's to do it in a fashion that will minimize the damage and maximize the prospects for some kind of enduring stability. Congressman Davis mentioned the Iraq Study Group. A number of other groups have all endorsed the notion that we have to talk to the neighbors. We have to talk to Syria and Iran and Turkey and Saudi Arabia and Jordan and Kuwait. They offer the opportunity to, if we can't stop the violence in Iraq, at least to contain it. And if we can't talk to them, then we don't have any chance of reducing the violence that's in Iraq, whether we stay or leave. It's that critical to begin that dialogue, and to begin that dialogue in a way that brings people to the table instead of pushes them away, as we have in this administration often done. So I leave with that thought that we need to find a way to look at the broader framework outside of Iraq and create the stability that we're all looking for with other people who are in the region, with the United Nations, with our allies in Western Europe and elsewhere around the world, in order to mitigate against the worst possible outcomes that the President is often reminding us are going to happen if we withdraw. They will happen if we don't work in the broader context. But we have to begin the withdrawal in order to enable the ability to talk to any of the neighbors in any successful fashion. Thank you.